It wasn't an excuse. It was an emergency, and it almost cost me my life. My boss thought I was lying when I called in sick. I woke up with the worst headache of my life. Light felt like needles in my eyes. When I called my manager, Greg, he sighed deeply. Another migraine? That's 3 this month. We have the client presentation today, he said. I'd never missed a presentation before, but this felt different. My vision was blurry, and I could barely stand without getting dizzy. I really can't make it, I whispered. The pain made it hard to even speak. Take an Advil and get here before 10. The team needs you, he said before hanging up. I dragged myself to the bathroom, threw up twice, and somehow managed to get dressed. My neighbor saw me staggering toward the car and ran over. You look terrible. You can't drive like that, she said, taking my keys. I have to go to work, I mumbled, barely able to form words. She called 911. Luckily, she did. The ambulance arrived quickly. As they loaded me in, I kept muttering something about the presentation. The paramedic checked my pupils with a flashlight that felt like knives were being plunged into my head. How long have you had these symptoms? He asked. They started last night, I managed to say, but I sometimes get migraines. The paramedic exchanged a glance with his partner. This isn't a migraine. At the hospital, they took me straight to triage. The ER doctor asked if I had hit my head recently. I remembered bumping it on a cabinet door 3 days ago, but it seemed so insignificant that I hadn't even considered it. Have you had any confusion? Memory problems? He asked. I forgot my phone password yesterday. I had to reset it, I admitted. While I was waiting for the brain scan, I got a text from Greg. The meeting starts in 30. Where are you? I tried to type, but I couldn't focus the screen. The letters were all jumbled up. I gave up. The technician had just started the scan when he said, Stop. Call the neurosurgeon now. Everything sped up after that. A new doctor appeared, reviewed the images, and spoke with a calm urgency. You have what's called a subdural hematoma, bleeding between the brain and its outer covering. It's pressing on your brain, and we need to relieve that pressure immediately. But I have a presentation, I protested weakly. The doctor's expression softened. If you had gone to that meeting, you might not have made it out alive. That's when I understood how serious it was. Am I going to die? Not if I can help it, he said, already ordering preparations for surgery. They let me make a quick call before going into surgery. I called my sister instead of work. She promised to be there when I woke up. As they wheeled me into the operating room, I remembered Greg's dismissive tone. In 3 years, I'd never questioned his authority. I'd come to work with the flu, with food poisoning after dental surgeries. At our company, toughing it out was celebrated like a badge of honor. The anesthesiologist asked me to count backward from 10. I got to 7. I learned later that the surgery lasted 4 hours. The doctor had to drill small holes in my skull to drain the blood and reduce the pressure. The blow from the cabinet had caused a small rupture in a blood vessel, which had been slowly bleeding for days. Every time I ignored the pain to go to work, I made it worse. My sister stayed by my side in the ICU. She called our parents, who were driving from out of state. She also called human resources to explain my absence. What she didn't tell me until later was that Greg had called her demanding to know when I would be back. The quarterly numbers are due Monday. We need your Excel formulas, he said. My sister, usually the diplomat of the family, lost her temper. She's having brain surgery right now because she was afraid to take a sick day. Is that commitment enough for you? During my recovery, my cell phone kept buzzing with annoying messages from Greg. Where are you? The client is waiting. This is totally unprofessional. Finally, my sister answered and told him I was in brain surgery. There was a long silence. Then he hung up. 3 weeks later, when I returned to work, Greg couldn't look me in the eye. Human resources had already told him about medical sensitivity training. I still get migraines sometimes. But now when I call in sick, Greg just says, Take care. The work will be here when you return.